saw Harry Dean doing some content out there. Is he a big chance for Thursday?
No, I don't know what you saw there. No, we do have some debutants. Might surprise you, the first one. Jagger actually got a game. So that's so we can confirm that one, and obviously the other one is Harry himself as well. So two both great stories. Obviously, father and son joining us, and high draft pick, but he's really impressed so far in the exposure that we've had with him, and he's going to draw a very long partnership with Weders down there, I'm sure, over a long period of time. And obviously Jagger, most people have been seeing him over the last couple of weeks and the impact that he can have on games, and probably how valuable he'll be to us in the short term and the long term. We've obviously been watching a lot of that over the course of the last couple of years over pre-season, but he finally gets his first game, so he's a pretty excited man.
What about so in terms of new players for Carlton? Obviously, Ollie and Will will go as well, won't they?
Yeah, we'll sort of hold on the rest because there are a few. So we'll probably hold on a rest until later this afternoon because we've got to finalise our training. Get through that. Obviously, the main one for us right now is to ensure that Weders gets through fit and healthy. We're expecting that he will, but obviously we've got to let training tell us that before we make any final decisions on that. So, as you mentioned, there's some obvious ones in there, but we'll obviously try and hold off on some of those at this point in time.
Has Weders done much contact work?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, we've been sort of stepping up his progression over the last 2 training sessions. So it's just been a sort of steady introduction of that. So probably this is the one where it becomes somewhat uncontrolled versus being controlled. So wait and see. Like I said, it's all leaning towards the positive. So there's nothing suggests that it's not going to go where he is playing and takes his place in the team. But you still got to make sure that you get through this particular training session, and we'll get his views on that before we make any final ones.
Is there anything particular you're looking for from him in this training session?
Just got to go flat out, really. That's it. But also the other important thing is that it's important for us to note that we're determined to go up there and get the job done, whether he's there or not. So that's really important for us as a footy team, based over the last couple of weeks and the confidence we've had in our back six. It's a big job to be able to take into round 0. But the guys have acquitted themselves really well as a back 6-7. So. I said to Weders, if you're right, mate, you'll play. If you're not, don't worry, mate. There'll be another game 7 days later that you can turn up to.
Just on that, you know what the Carlton key forward brings exactly, and you know he's going to want to drop 20 on your head. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on combating what Charlie will bring? You know exactly what's coming.
Yeah. Did you say the Carlton forward?
Sydney.
Yeah. Okay. Just that. It's been a few months. So that's all right. Getting used to the new colours, all of us. Yeah, I think we're fully aware of the capacity the guy has. I mean, we spent some guys a lot longer, 8-9 years with him. I've spent 4 years out here training and seeing what he can do, and obviously in game. So he's certainly got X factor. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, if that works out that Weders becomes a matchup for him, we're confident of seeing those battles. Over the long run, so they know each other very, very well. It'll be intriguing contest, and I guess the best way that we can sort of try and impact that a little is just ensure that further up the ground there's pressure on the ball, and the ball's not coming down too clean, and we can affect his supply. So maybe we can just give ourselves a bit of a chance where the ball's been kicked over fingers, and we give our defenders a chance, and then it's up to them to be able to get the job done.
Do you risk being too Charlie focused, considering how dynamic Sydney's forward line's going to be, like a McDonald, Joel Marty, Papley, Heaney?
No, I think everyone else is probably Charlie focused. I think we sort of don't make it about him. We've got a job to do, and we're pretty determined to get it done. And this isn't going to be about him. It's not going to be about Will. It won't be about Ollie. I know there'll be a lot of chat about that, so I understand that's the story that people will talk about. But everyone will have their own sort of way that they'll deal with that. But I think it's very easy to be able to shift your eyes onto much bigger things than just one person or even just one game.
How much, if at all, is there freedom in less expectations than what you had on your shoulders this time last year as a team? I don't know what those expectations are, because I don't really pay a hell of a lot of attention to them. We've got
internal expectations around we want to play, or sort of type of teammates. So if there have been high expectations, we've always been quite level in our approach. If there are lower expectations, then we'll be quite level in our approach. What we have built confidence on is that we've seen a new group go out there and play some pretty good football together, and they're bringing great energy. And when people are watching at home or have come to the ground, they're seeing a really energetic group, bringing effort. And they're playing really well together as a team. So that's what we want to make sure that we transfer. So, whether that's, playing the MCG or whether it's, that's round zero at the SCG, we somewhat now, that's our expectations. And we expect to see that every week.
Just on that, there's so much new, not just about your team, but about your football club from 12 months ago. Have the expectations and the attitude changed from 12 months ago, or have they stayed very much the same, given there's so much that's changed?
Yeah, don't focus a hell of a lot. I'll tell you what I am focused on. I'm focused on 2 days and getting the next 2 days right. I don't look back 12 months. We started the preseason campaign and shifted so many things, but it's fine for me to be able to sort of stand here and talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's how we turn up, how we show up, how do we action it, and that's where we're at. We're on the eve of that. So we feel confident coming in. Certainly the players have played some really, spent a lot of pre-season together, clearly played only a couple of games really together. We could have upwards of 10, 11 new players from how we finished last year to how we're going to turn up this year. So how can you compare what happened 12 months ago when you've got that almost half your team that's going to change from that team to this one? So we'll just lean into what we've got as opposed to what wasn't there, and we hope that's enough to get the job done.
How pumped is Weders to play in his old team? You said
I think he's more focused on getting through this training session, to be honest with you. And I think if that presents itself, then he'll tackle it. He's a pro. As I said, like whether that's Charlie understanding Weders understanding Charlie, that's they know each other very, very well. But we sort of put friendships aside and we go into combat against each other. And I'm sure there'll be some gamesmanship within that, but ultimately there's bigger prize at hand, and that's what we're probably focused in on.
How happy were you with the ball movement through that semi?
Yeah, good. I think we're sort of steady progression. They're certainly moving the needle in the right direction. That's what I would say. So finding those moments where to be really dynamic, and then also just knowing those times when to be composed. So I would imagine in this game, in the first 30 minutes, is going to be very fast. So when do we? I guess the mistakes will be quite high. I'd imagine quite early, and so how do we settle into that is going to be very, very important. But ultimately now, like what you're doing, you're asking, can we get transfer? And that's what we're after. We want to see the transfer, have a more balanced game model. Everyone's got to be good at one thing. So we hope we bring that to the table, but also have enough in the other phases of the game that we can do some damage.
February's kind of the key month of the pre-season in the sense that you finally see what you're working on against opposition. If you contrast what your expectation was going into February to where you sit now, are you buoyed by what you saw from those intra-clubs, your match sim and your community series?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the first things I did was put the team up, and when we played our first practice match, and just went through guys that have played less than half the season last year and guys who have joined us. And if you just do that exercise yourself, you'll sort of see there's a lot of names in there, and so there's going to be some patience in that. So over the last couple of weeks to be able to see the transfer, maybe that's on the back of some more experienced guys that have joined us. We've got guys at 150 games, 180 games, so they've seen systems, they've seen how models work, and they've just gelled really well. That's the thing that I've been probably the most impressed. But you always just keep it, I get a bit more reserved until you see it under real heat. And we're going to get that. So we're about to step into it, but I feel really confident that we've ticked all the boxes we need to so far.
In terms of that connection, are you most pleased with an element of the ground? Like the forward line's pretty new look. You've got a new sort of bit of armoury in defence, and then the midfield, obviously with Jagger coming into that mix, but it sort of feels like the forward line's the biggest element of change.
Yeah.
Is that the area that you're most pleased with from a connection?
Oh, it's most exciting. The different avenues to goal, what they've been able to produce has been really impressive. And to each of them to be able to sort of come together in a really short period of time and be able to play the way that they have and understand the detail of their roles the way that they are. That's been the impressive part. And they're playing with energy and it's dynamic and it's diverse and they're sort of they're stepping into all of it. So which has been really great to see. And we just obviously hope that we get some of that when it comes to the first game.
What sort of an impact has Adam Simpson had for the coaching group so far?
Yeah, he's been good. Simo's, as you know, not here full time, but he has been a pretty important mentor for the coaches. I think you might have seen him in the coach's box the other day, but that's, I guess, all part of what we're trying to do. Is we're asking our players to find ways to get better. Well, we are as well. So to be able to have that mentoringship, he sort of says, one step back. Having that view, non-emotional view. It's just a great resource to be able to tap into when you've got someone of that experience who is helped develop our coaches, but also, a real helpful hand for me and a great sounding board for me when you need to talk through some pretty critical subjects.
Is Peter there? Any chance of travelling out for the game?
I take that offline, but I'm pretty sure he'll be there. It'll take more than that even for Peter not to be there. I reckon he'll find a way there. Yeah.